I'm going to be the second affirmative for this case. And while it is true that many of the college sports players do get scholarships, there's still a lot of unpaid for expenses, such as for injuries that exceed 90,000 for the college athletes. The school isn't actually required to cover for them unless it does exceed 90,000. And in these college sports, it's not uncommon for most of these injuries to be long-term and have high expenses. So they have to pay out of pocket for that, which they aren't covered for in their scholarships because those are intended for their educational purposes. And at the smaller schools where there isn't as much revenue for their sports departments, they're required to pay about $10,000 out of pocket before the insurance coverage actually comes in and supports them in that. Because according to the ESPN statistics for 2008, the companies that run the college sports are bringing in millions of dollars, and none of this is actually going to the students directly, which is leading to a free labor kind of thing. And an example is that the University of Texas is bringing in $81 million a year, and the University of Michigan is bringing in $58 million a year, and that's just for football alone. And at Auburn Athletics in 2014, they made $69.2 million off ticket sales and ads and all the things that the college athletes help support and build up by playing at their campuses. So it leads to this multi-billion-dollar business where the only people who are restricted in advancing and the earnings for their work are the athletes. Like Nathan said earlier, in the past, the issue wasn't as big, but the gap between the expenses and the revenue are growing more and more each year. For the top 10 schools with the largest revenues, the expenses they're using to keep their sports departments running are about $12 million a year, and the revenue they're bringing in is about $145 million a year. And each year, this gap is getting bigger and bigger while the college athletes are still not getting paid. An example is March Madness, which is one of the biggest college basketball events in the year. And at the end of it, the total revenue of the game is about $1 billion just from those games alone. And the part about education, where it's their priority and the purpose of them being there, is somewhat countered by that for the basketball rules at college campuses, they practice about 20 hours a week, which is about 4 hours a day, which is a pretty big amount on its own. And that's only the official stated hours. But in reality, a lot of those players are expected to show up and help out and do other extracurricular activities for their sports team that aren't counted officially into their hours. And at the campus Northwestern, as Nathan mentioned earlier, the student Kane Coulter, when he was talking to his football staff and their advisors about how their workload was too much and it was interfering with their schoolwork, he was advised he drop his pre-medical major because it was too much work for him at the time. And the New York Times reported that the male athletes had about 0.25 points worse GPA average than their non-sport playing counterpart. And for females, they had about a 0.06 lower GPAs. And the part about the scholarships is, it's true that they get scholarships for playing in the college sports teams, but as of lately, they're only getting promised about 1 year or 1 to 2 years at a time. So they have no guarantee of getting taken care of in the future. Because when they play these college sports, there's a lot of long-term health benefits that affect them in the future that they aren't getting compensated for. Like they get compensated 1 year of scholarship, which helps them out in the present time, but in the future they don't get compensated at all compared to other scholarships. Then about 21% 21.9% of injuries require 7 or more days of recovery. So these are like serious long-term injuries that can have tolls on their health in the future. Like the college football concussion issue where a lot of people are having major concussions and risking their life, and they're not getting compensated for that. So what we're trying to say is the lifetime medical benefits would help alleviate a lot of that pressure that they're going through, such as concussions, lifetime injuries to ACL tears, and having a lifetime medical benefit would compensate for a good part of that. And setting up salary caps for all the players would keep the competitiveness of the sport in there without monetizing everything in it. So, and this is a growing issue, especially with the gaps in revenue and expenses growing bigger and bigger. And it just leads to a bigger problem in the future unless athletes get compensated in the near future. Yeah.